Episode 7, The Watchers, Forbidden Unions, and the Fall of the Gods. In Episode 6, we explored the divine spark, the hidden potential within humans, perhaps placed there by Enki himself. But what happens when that spark is amplified by a forbidden union? In this episode, we meet the Watchers, the rebel faction of the Anunnaki, or angels, who didn't just break protocol. They broke divine law. They descended. They mingled. They taught. And they fell. And humanity was never the same again. The Book of Enoch, one of the oldest texts excluded from the Bible, gives us the most detailed account. It is named 200 Watchers, also called Gregory, who came to earth in the days of Jared, long before the Great Flood. They made a pact on Mount Hermon to take beautiful human women as wives and bear children, even knowing it would mean exile or destruction. Their leader was Shemihaza, but others, Azazel, Sariel, Kokabiel, Barakel, would go down in history as corruptors of mankind. But why was this act so forbidden? In Sumerian terms, the Watchers may have been lower-ranking Anunnaki, assigned to observe humanity. But instead of watching, they interfered. Their crime wasn't just mating with humans, it was elevating them. They taught us metalworking and weapons, Azazel, astrology and lunar calendars, Kokabiel, root cutting and herbal knowledge, Arakiel, magic, enchantments, and spiritual rituals, Penemu. This knowledge was supposed to be restricted to the gods. To Enlil and his high command, this was an unauthorized leak of divine technology. Enki had already opened the door. The Watchers kicked it down. From these unions came the Nephilim, the children of the Watchers, part human, part divine. The Book of Enoch describes them as giants of old, men of renown, who devoured all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. These were not just tall warriors, they were genetic anomalies, hybrids with vast power, intelligence, and zero restraint. They introduced war, cannibalism, interdimensional contact, and a new form of spiritual contamination that echoed into human DNA. The Nephilim nearly tore the earth apart, and then Enlil had enough. His judgment was, Watchers imprisoned, earth purged. He ordered the Great Flood, not just to destroy mankind, but to eliminate the Nephilim and punish the Watchers. According to Enoch, the archangel Uriel was sent to warn Noah. The Watchers were seized, bound, and cast into the abyss, a dimensional prison beneath the earth until the final judgment. Azazel, the one who taught warfare, was blamed above all and cast into a desert tomb, a motif later echoed in the Hebrew scapegoat ritual. The memory of the Watchers was totally wiped from religious history, or so they thought. Now, the Book of Enoch isn't the only place this tale appears. Other texts that echo the story as well are Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. The Book of Jubilees expands on Enoch and clarifies the timeline of the Watchers' descent and corruption. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain Enoch fragments and writings about angels bound for corrupting mankind. The Sumerian king list describes reigns that lasted tens of thousands of years before the flood, possibly Nephilim kings. The Epic of Gilgamesh himself is described as two-thirds divine, likely the descendant of a Watcher line. Greek mythology, the Titanomachy, gods, titans, mating with mortals and being punished by Zeus. Indian Vedas talk of devas and asuras, divine beings who fell from grace and mixed with humans. Interesting enough, the story is global. Only the names have changed. But why was this knowledge suppressed? Because the Watchers gave humanity what the gods feared most: equality. The teachings of the Watchers bypassed the priesthood, the temples, the hierarchies. They gave humans the tools to ascend, to know the stars, to alter the body, to manipulate matter and energy. That's why the knowledge of the Watchers was branded occult, why astrology became evil, why plant medicine was labeled witchcraft, why forbidden knowledge sharing was punishment. It's not because it's dark, but because it's liberating. Are the Watchers still with us? Some believe the Watchers are imprisoned dimensionally. Others say their descendants live among us, in elite bloodlines, behind thrones, governments, and inside global institutions. And some believe the Watchers never fell, that the story of their rebellion was part of a narrative inversion to make humanity fear its own potential. What if they weren't villains, but 200 teachers who paid the ultimate price for our awakening? The Watchers paid the price for sharing the forbidden knowledge. The Watchers gave us more than offspring. They gave us memory of the stars, of energies, of our own capacity to create and destroy. They broke the law, they broke the system, and in doing so, they planted the idea that maybe, just maybe, we were meant to become like them. Sovereign I individuals. This was episode 7 of our 10-part series. In episode 8, we trace the survival of the Nephilim through ancient kings, empires, secret bloodlines, and into the corridors of modern power. Ah, yeah, subscribe and like. Share this with someone ready to challenge the approved version of history, because those who defied the gods may have been fighting for us.